Home Office that these people are not allowed to speak to us. Is that what you're telling us?
You can speak. They are not know English.
Yeah, well, exactly. Thank you.
In broken English, the two men told me they were both 27 and from Iran, but wouldn't say how they got to the UK. We've been told that every day around 30,000 hotel rooms across the country are requisitioned by the Home Office to house asylum seekers. It's costing close to £5 million each day and is clearly unsustainable. This hotel near Bristol Airport, another where business travellers and holidaymakers are unable to book their rooms. And when they ask why, as John Northfield did, they're simply told to contact the Home Office.
I actually booked it through booking.com, and they said if I wanted an explanation, I would have to try and contact the hotel direct, which I did try and do that, but obviously they weren't very forthcoming as to why the hotel was being closed for 12 months.
The need for radical solutions prompted the move to adapt this old RAF base at Linton-on-Ouse in North Yorkshire for use as an accommodation centre. But its close proximity to the village of Linton-on-Ouse has enraged locals like Catherine Dryden, who fears that an influx of bored young men is just asking for trouble.
They are going to be bored out of their schools. There is no infrastructure in this village. We're a very small, tight-knit community. Yes, we will be welcoming them and speak to them, absolutely not a problem, but that is not enough. What are these people going to do?
Despite the understandable local anxiety, if the government can make a success of the asylum accommodation centre here, it could pave the way for other similar camps.
You only need to walk through the centre of this village to see exactly what locals fear in terms of their community being completely overrun. It's tiny. The main street here has one shop and not much else. So with the prospect of hordes of young men hanging around here, the concern is understandable.
Those worries are being compounded by several incidents of concern in some areas where asylum seekers have been housed, including this one in Windsor, where a group of schoolgirls videoed as they were propositioned by a couple of asylum seekers.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, how old are you? 21. Yeah, we're 15. Us. Oh, we're 15. She likes me. You're 21 and you're asking for snaps. We're 15.
Walk on, bro. Walk on. They're young girls, brother. Walk on.
Thames Valley Police has confirmed it's investigating this incident. Olga Matthias, who's campaigned against the Linton-on-Ouse centre, believes it's been ill thought out and will end in disaster.
Something appalling, or several appalling somethings will happen. The Home Office has no track record of successfully delivering any policy that they've invented. And I use the word invented deliberately because this has definitely not been thought through.
The issue of where to accommodate the growing number of asylum seekers is a major headache for the government. Last month, every local authority in the country became part of the National Dispersal Scheme, which will see even more of their housing stock used to accommodate asylum seekers. The pressure on housing stock, on hotels, the need to adapt old military bases will continue as long as the small boats keep coming across the channel. And for the moment at least, there's no end in sight to that. Mark White, GB News.
Well, given that over 9,000 people have crossed the Channel so far this year, with more coming today and even more expected tomorrow, this could mean Linton-on-Ouse is coming somewhere close to you very soon. Well, joining me live from Linton tonight is Mark White. Mark, I remember a similar plan to house asylum seekers at the Napier Barrack, Shorncliffe, in Folkestone.
Yes!
And I remember, despite the fact these barracks were good enough for national servicemen and good enough for the army, the barracks were deemed to be not good enough for asylum seekers, and in the end, some of them set fire to the place. What's to say that Linton-on-Ouse meets the standards that are now demanded?
Well, the Home Office say that they have been redeveloping the site to make sure that they do indeed meet the standards that are required. With Napier Barracks, of course, you had human rights groups and their lawyers who were there representing them and complaining about the state of the barracks there. Of course, the difference with Napier Barracks was it was at a time of the COVID pandemic where people were being kept in close proximity to each other. So a lot of the concern at Napier was around just how unsuitable it was claimed the accommodation was really for having people socially distanced. They weren't able to do that. Napier is still being used to some extent.
Yes, it is.
I think even here at Linton-on-Ouse, if it is a successful model that's adopted here, then I think we could see similar projects in other military installations, government-owned buildings going forward, because Nigel, they have to do something with these people. The fact is that the year to March, there was 55,000 asylum seekers who have lodged claims for asylum in this country. 31,000 of those, the vast majority in the year to March, were people who have come across in small boats. As you say, there is no end in sight to that. It is continuing. Each week, each month that passes, thousands more are requiring to be housed. They're trying to house them more in council houses and rented accommodation. We've heard there about 30,000 rooms in hotels across the country being used on a daily basis. Really, if you're looking to put them in a place in significant numbers, you're looking at the likes of former military installations where you can get 1,500 at a time in here. But of course, for the local people in this very beautiful village, that is extremely upsetting.
But even 1,500 at a time, if 100,000 come this year, means Linton-on-Ouse is coming to somewhere near you very soon. Mark, Rwanda. I know that great faith and great hope was pinned on the Rwanda plan. Conflicting reports. On the one hand, we hear there are a series of legal challenges under the Human Rights Act. Well, no surprise there. On the other, we hear the government are absolutely determined in the next few weeks to start flights. Do you have an update on where we are with Rwanda?
Well, the government is certainly determined. We've had in the last couple of weeks these interim notices that have been sent out to about 100 asylum seekers who crossed via these boats from a safe country, from France, who'd been put on notice. And just within the last few days, 50 of those 100 have been given a notice of intent to send them to Rwanda within the next week or so. We understand that the first flights won't go before June the 7th, but after that they could go. However, having said that, the government is braced for legal action in the courts. Nothing as yet that has actually started within the court process, but the second that the removal process begins in earnest, then those claims will be lodged in the courts, and then we're into how long is a piece of string territory in terms of how long that will actually take before eventually we could get them to Rwanda. In theory, Rwanda could work. It could be a deterrent for the criminal gangs on the other side of the channel if they think those who want to go across are going to be sent to Rwanda, then their model kind of collapses. That at least is the thinking of the government. But there's a lot of ifs.
A lot of ifs. Mark White, great reporting. Thank you. That was Mark White from Linton-on-Ouse. Well, joining me is Sue Reed, Special Investigations Editor at the Daily Mail. Sue, with the Human Rights Act in place,